Just watched the film Planet of the Humans. It is a movie on YouTube, produced by Michael Moore, a leftist activist, but still well worth the time to watch. I will now comment on its contents and the Green Movement's hypocrisy in the global warming debate, and of course what their real agenda is. Before I comment, please help this channel by giving this video a like. Every like will help the YouTube algorithm. Thank you in anticipation. The Green Movement's desire to have renewable energy is desirable, even if it is totally misguided. By renewable, we are talking about wind and solar power taking over from the more traditional coal-fired power stations. We are not talking about nuclear power, which does not have the approval of the majority of the people. This because of three disasters: Chernobyl, Fukushima and 3 Mile Island. All of these power plants were of old designs, and I am certain that newer plants and the small plants of today would not have the same disastrous results. However, nuclear power plants are not cheap to operate and will not be replacing coal anytime soon. Having said that, the renewable power is far more expensive to operate and totally unreliable, as sun does not always shine and wind does not always blow. Without government subsidy, wind and solar just would not work. On top of this, it is necessary to run backup generation plants to keep the power flowing when the wind and the solar inevitably fail to produce. Germany has some of the highest cost energy in Europe because of its green lobby, and France has some of the lowest because of its willingness to use nuclear. Yes, I know I said that nuclear is expensive, but it is nowhere near as expensive as wind and solar. One of the left's favourite fuel sources is biofuels. By this they mean the burning of trees instead of coal or gas. Is this environmentally friendly? No, it is not. To convert any substance into energy, you first need to know the energy density of that fuel. Virtually all of the so-called green sources of power are very energy dilute. By that I mean that a much larger volume has to be consumed to attain the same energy output as the more traditional sources such as coal or gas. That has a side effect, as was shown in the Michael Moore film. A solar array covering approximately 1 football field developed enough power for only 6 homes. Not a very efficient use of land, and if extrapolated out to cover the needs of the planet, would make living here very crowded indeed. Biofuels, such as trees, are not good sources of energy and are not efficient users of land or resources. How much fossil fuel is consumed in felling the trees, transporting them to the plant, and then chipping them so that they can be burnt to provide the end result of electricity? Would it not be better just to burn the coal instead? Now let's look at solar panels. They are promoted as being made from sand, but that is far from the truth. Sand contains far too many impurities, so mined silica is used, and the mining process takes fossil fuels. To refine the raw silica, it needs to be placed in a furnace with some high-grade coal and melted at temperatures of well over 1,000 degrees. This furnace will usually be using coal as its main source of energy, and one of the byproducts of the refining is CO2, which is allowed to evaporate into the atmosphere. This whole process probably produces more CO2 or greenhouse gases than the solar panel will save in its rather short lifespan of some 20 plus years. Solar does not work ignite, so there needs to be some form of storage battery added into the system, or you will have a situation of complete shutdown after dusk. Storage batteries are not yet efficient and are expensive to produce, both in terms of finance and environmentally. Windmills are also expensive to produce and they are, in my opinion, not aesthetically attractive. A lake formed behind a dam is much more attractive and can be used for entertainment as well. As with solar, they produce much less electricity than is promoted. This is probably less than 50% of their rated output. These losses are caused mainly because of the lack of wind and, of course, breakdowns. Built of steel, aluminium and composite materials such as carbon fibre, all of which require the use of fossil fuels in their production. Then the towers and the generators only have a lifespan of some 20 years. How long have the dams on the Waikato River been in production? Yes, requiring maintenance, but still producing. Another factor of windmills is bird kill. The blades to us humans appear to be rotating quite slowly, but the tips of the blades are travelling at well over 100 miles an hour and up to 180 miles an hour in the stronger winds. Also, the area covered by the spinning blade is over the size of 2 football fields, both of which are hard enough for us humans to digest, but virtually impossible for birds. Hence they fly into the blades and are killed. The rather short lifespan of the turbines is also a factor. And what happens at the end of their rather inefficient lifespan? In most cases so far, they have been just left to rot, making their unattractiveness even worse. These replacement factors and the associated costs, both environmental and financial, make this option less than ideal. Finally, electric cars. Once again, these would not be sold if it weren't for the government subsidies. Without that, the cost would be prohibitive for most people. I checked on a Nissan Leaf, one of the less expensive of the electric cars around, but it still costs between $30,000 and $35,000 depending on the model. This compared with a Toyota Corolla at $20,000 to $25,000. On top of this, there is a need to factor in the cost of the replacement batteries, which for the Leaf is approximately $9,000 after 100,000 miles or 10 years. On this basis alone, the economics of electric are doubtful. My car, a Honda Accord, is over 15 years old and still going strong, although not worth much now. I have covered the cost of making the batteries earlier, but we have yet to know how much is involved in their disposal. Also, where does the power come from for the recharging of the cars? From the national grid, of course, and in New Zealand that is principally from renewables, but that is not the case in most countries. There it is from coal-fired generation, and therefore not, in the opinion of the left, very green at all. The final section of the film discussed the ultimate aim of the producers, the reduction of the numbers of humans on the planet, as man is the real reason for all our environmental problems. Get rid of man and all problems will be solved. This is not practical, of course, but a severe reduction in the numbers is the aim, because in the producers' minds we are using the planet's resources up far too quickly, and that cannot be sustained. However, from just a quick look, you will see that the Earth's population explosion is not coming from the developed world, but the so-called third world. Massively raise the standard of living in the third world and the population explosion will be solved. Wealthy and well-educated people do not tend to have large families, so the rise in population numbers is solved. How do you raise the standard of living? Primarily by the delivery of cheap, reliable energy, and at this time that would need to be coal or gas-fired generation. What is the result of complete reliance on renewable energy supplies? The complete destruction of our civilization. We have built our society on the use of fossil fuel generated power, and that must be allowed to continue. The Earth's resources were predicted to have run out by now, but that has not happened, and the ingenuity of man will overcome any shortage in the future. One example is our crop yields. They are increasing all the time through increased efficiency, and we are still able to feed ourselves. This will continue in all matters, I am sure. There is not a global catastrophe coming with global warming, as there has been no increase in the average temperatures over the last 20 years, even with increasing levels of CO2. As the sun is the principal driver of our climate, and it is going into a less active phase, there may in fact be a cooling on the way. A global cooling period, similar to the one predicted in the early 20th century, but now forgotten, is the more likely scenario. That is the end of this video. Please do comment, as I do like these missives to be more than a one-way street. Please don't forget to subscribe and click on the little bell to see when I upload the next video. Sharing this video with friends and family would also be appreciated. Thanks for watching Captain's Cookies commentary, and we will see you next time.